What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have got a little clip here from one of our most recent chats and podcast discussions that we did regarding the whole up in the air Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight that we all want to see. But I think somebody's chucked a spanner in the works. Make sure you watch the whole video to find out our thoughts on everything. Like if you do enjoy the video, and make sure you subscribe for more. What we're going to start with today then, Turkey?
I think we're going to start with saying that Anthony Joshua's finally got a bit of personality into him.
I hope he's not watching this video.
At least behind his Twitter account he has anyway.
Yep, no, you're right. He's been a bit outspoken.
Probably the first time like that.
Aye.
I'm sure everybody watching, seeing what's been going on in terms of the fight was still unknown whether the fight's going to take place this year. If at all, depending on, because they're going to probably have a fight each now, again, before they even potentially fight, the likelihood is. But still waiting to see what goes on. But, I mean, what do you make of that full thing?
Well, the main focus is on Wilder, really, isn't it? He's spoilt this massive party that all us boxing fans have been waiting for months now, and he spoilt it 4 hours or something after the biggest fight on the planet was announced. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. What is going on there? Because I know that it was 4 hours after, right? Was that what it was?
I have no idea if it was 4 hours, but it was soon. He literally on Instagram he announced that fight and he said it was done, and then like a couple hours later I remember looking on Instagram and it was like the fight's off. Wilder's won his court case. I'm like, this court case has been going on for months,
if not like close to a year, right? Is that not a bit, like
possibly? And it just so happens that on that day that they announced the biggest fight in history for the most money, probably, like, you know, for a long time, Wilder's won his court case. The judge has decided on that day, you know what? I think Wilder's right.
Yeah,
I think he deserves that shot.
He deserves his thing. Now, this is the thing, though. Is that because Anthony Joshua's basically called out Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury, in my opinion, has no control. It's up to his team. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe he's had anything. But at the end of the day, this is like in the contract. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you like? Because to me, how does, if he's in talks with his team and he comes out and says this fight's going on when he knows there's a possibility that it's not going on, and that's what Anthony Joshua is calling them out on. He's saying, like, you know, well, how can you agree to this when you know? Yeah. I'm sure he knows as well, but at the end of the day, it's Tyson Fury's the one involved, and he's like, you're letting the thingy down.
Well, he's kind of pushed everything, all the blame onto Fury, which in my eyes is clever, because if I was Joshua, that's what I would.
Well, this is the thing, like, you know, Wilder and Fury, they'd 100% do that if it was the other way around, but Joshua's like, doesn't have a go at anybody.
No.
So I think, but this time he actually has. He's actually, which I think's good.
It's good because I think I didn't expect that from Joshua, to be honest. And when I seen it, I thought, is this the start of like the mind games already?
Yeah.
When I seen it, because I thought he's put all of this, he's then just put on Fury, as if he's blaming Fury.
Yeah.
And like, that's gonna annoy you
no,
a bit.
it is,
Especially when like Fury knows, Joshua knows, everyone knows it's out of the boxer's control.
Of course.
But Joshua's basically saying, Fury, you let the team down, son.
Yep, you've let
told
the fans
everybody
down. You've let us down.
You've let everybody down. Not Joshua, not Eddie Hearn, not Bob Arum. Fury's let them down because he announced it.
Yeah. The Fury's own game as well. Do you know what? That's the thing that I like, because I like Fury and on the Twitter exchanges, like, I was like laughing to myself. Like, I thought Joshua sort of had the one up on him. If I had to give it, like, I thought he's gonna that would have not. You know, if I was Fury, I'd be like, and there's millions of people saying it and retweeting thousands of retweets, like, and his tweets were like banging even more than Fury's replies were. Do you know what I mean? So it puts, and I think that would potentially get under Fury's skin a bit.
Yeah,
You think I want to do him in more now. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. That's the thing. And you say the mind games thing. Fury's the master of the mind games, but that's going to get on your nerves. And he come back with his typical response of, you're a bum, I'll fight you in your back garden sort of thing for 20 mil, bare knuckle, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is his usual thing. So, it probably got him a little bit, but I think he knows what the crack is. He's not daft. Do you know what I mean? But what's got to me about the whole situation, Redpath, right, is everyone's blaming somebody else for this fight not going to happen now because Wilder's spat the dummy out, basically, right?
Yeah.
But nobody's questioning this court thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's went, hang on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happens that on the day of the biggest fight ever, Wilder wins his court case. Nobody's mentioned that.
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn actually said in an interview, he said it's the strangest decision that he's ever seen.
I've seen it.
In a by a judge.
He said
ruling.
It's just beyond it's sort of, but
it's got brown envelopes written all over it.
Yeah.
Wilder said, "This is my opinion." Well, this might not be the case, but this is what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Very much so. That Wilder's said to this guy, "Look, he probably this is he's not personally going to say this, but somebody said, look, there's a chance we could get a huge payoff here if we stop or put something in the works here with this AJ fight."
Yep.
And he's went, "Make this happen."
Yep.
And we're all going to make a lot of money out of this for doing absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Because Wilder knows that nobody wants to see really that Wilder fight again. Yep. It's great for Wilder to get the fight because he's got nothing to lose, like we've discussed. Mm-hmm. But he's also got so much to gain money-wise for doing nothing. You don't have to do anything. He just has to go.
But everyone's expecting Fury to go and do the same thing as last time, which he most likely will.
Exactly.
So people are expecting him to lose. So even if he loses again, it's like we knew this was going to happen. It's sort of, and he's going to get a huge payday. Yeah, it's a no. You can't really lose. You can only win hugely.
Yep, that's it. So he's going to get a free shot, basically, isn't he?
And shout out to Del Boy, because I showed you an interview months ago when we were thinking, when this was like, what's going to happen, and he said, "You'll not believe this fight happens basically until they're in the ring." And I sort of believed him because he was like, there's a contract in place, that's why it hasn't been agreed. But then as time went on, and it got closer and closer, and then a week ago, they announced the date in Saudi Arabia, wherever it was. And I was like, oh, well, it is happening. And now it turns out Del Boy was right. Derek Chisora was right. It seems that way.
It's so funny, yeah.
And he said, if I was Deontay Wilder, I'm going to ask for 60 million to step aside, something absolutely outrageous.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? Because
would I?
You think, well, if they want this fight to go ahead and it's going to make the figures that they're talking that it's going to make, you just put any price on it.
You do,
It doesn't matter. You'd ask whatever you wanted, wouldn't you, for that fight? Any money-wise, like you say, 60 mil. And Derek Chisora, he might be spot on. And Coogan, shout out IFL TV Coogan, because they are literally keeping us entertained on there with these boxing interviews and stuff. That Coogan mentioned that he was going to end up being like Chisora's housewife or something, didn't he? If the fight didn't happen this year,
he made a little bet,
which could possibly now be a thing. And I wouldn't like to be Chisora's housewife for free. Anyway, but so Chisora might end up being right. The fight might not happen.
That makes me think though, this fight they've went so far, and Eddie Hearn's been saying for months, trying to make sort things out to eventually get a place where they're going to fight, a date, and it's happening, right? They've got it sorted for 14th of August or whatever, right? How, just when there's even a 1% chance that Wilder might win the case, to me, that should be sorted before they even... fair enough, looking and seeing what's possible, but before you actually book the place and say, this is going to be the fight date, when, potentially, even if it's a 1% chance, which is probably a lot bigger than that, because the court case is still going on. There's only one or two ways it's going to go. He's either going to get the third fight or he's not.
So it's a coin toss on this, the judge.
Do you know what I mean? And they're, I just think, it's absolutely crazy, but we'll never really know the ins and outs. Like, is it Fury's team that said to them, like, no, we're not fighting a third time, we're guaranteed, but then that wasn't, like, you just don't know, do you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. The whole court thing, like you say, though, should have been the first thing.
That should be, yep.
On everybody's list to do. Eddie Hearn should have been, because Eddie Hearn has been made out, I think, over the last few weeks on social media, on YouTube, through interviews, that he's the man that's sorting this fight out.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's been banging on about. Fury doesn't want the fight. Eddie Hearn's the only one trying to make it happen. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yet, this tiny little thing, this supposed tiny little thing, has ruined the whole thing.
Yeah.
And nobody looked into this.
Yeah.
Nobody thought this was a possibility.
Yeah.
Nobody, like,
that's the thing. Throughout, like, the past few months, we've been told, like, no details. Nobody's came out and said this is what's going on with the Wilder thing. Like, there's been, like, it's still going on. It hasn't been finished, fine. Like, but anytime Fury was saying, like, I've got now to do.
I don't think they're able to talk about it because it's in the process. You know what I mean? So only the people who are actually sitting in that courtroom or doing that court case or whatever they're doing know what's going on, and they're just passing information on to Fury, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, and all the rest of it. But it's happened. This is the case now.
Well, there's still in the next couple of days that it's all gonna be done and dusted, isn't it? Like, because
I think Eddie Hearn said he's going to give Fury's team a few weeks to sort it out, and if they can't sort it,
I think Joshua's been ordered to get it sorted if he's going to fight Usyk or not in the next, like, 48 hours. I've seen.
Has he?
Yeah, I believe I've seen that. Like, they're giving them, like, 48 hours to let, like, that's, like, the time frame they've given him, because, like,
he needs to do a mandatory or something.
Needs to do the mandatory, if not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for boxing, I hope the fight gets made. I hope it can happen this year, for Coogan's sake.
Yeah.
No, just in general, for fans, because, like we discuss on many occasions, how often do you see it where two fighters hype a fight up, they should fight, and then they don't, and then they fight 3 years later, and it's not the same.
But it's not the same.
They haven't got the belts, they've already lost. One of them's went off the rails.
Yeah.
The other one's now
Not
better than the one at the
seriously,
time. Yeah, like do you know what I mean?
But like, if we're gonna say now though that Joshua has to fight Usyk and then Wilder has to fight Fury again before they can, like, the likelihood is, I think they're both going in. Obviously, Fury's going to go in favourite and Joshua's going to go in favourite. The likelihood, but it's just like, it might not happen. What happens if Wilder does?
What happens if Usyk boxes Joshua's head off for 12 rounds?
Aye.
What happens if Wilder lands at one punch?
Exactly.
Then the chances are we're all going to see that fight.
But it's not going to be what it is now, is it?
It's not the undisputed. It's not going to generate the money. It's not going to have the build up. No. It's not going to have that same.
It's not
that same effect. And then this is where we come on to the money thing. If Wilder, because apparently he's only asked for 20 mil.
That's what
20 mil's
Fury came out
a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for the numbers that this fight was supposedly going to generate, 20 mil's a drop in the ocean. You know, it's 10 million a piece. Now, I think the fighters themselves would be like, let's just do it. Do you know what I mean? Me personally, Joshua and Fury, I think they'd just be like, how about 10 mil? Like, just pay him, like, get it over with. But it's your promoters and your back staff that they get a cut of the total revenue, don't they? The TV rights, all the rest of it, like the venue, the whatever. I don't know the ins and outs, but I'm assuming there's a lot of people have a percentage.
It's not just up to the fighters.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have a stake in this fight, and they will get their cut, and they don't want to lose 10 million each, or 20 million, or whatever it is, because their 10% of that is too. You know, it could be, well, their percentage of it could be 200 grand, 2 million, 5 million, a million. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you see why that, you know, it maybe does have that chance that it's not going to go ahead. There's still a chance that they could both fight, and then that fight could happen later on in the year.
Yeah.
But we don't want to wait that long. We want to see it now. It's going to generate big numbers now.
Yeah.
And does anyone really want to see Joshua fight Usyk at the minute?
Yeah, well, it's not. It's really going to be big because it's Joshua and it's a big fight, but it's nowhere near the worldwide hype around Fury v Joshua, because people want to see who's the best.
Do you know what though? It's a shame because Joshua Usyk is a good fight,
Very good.
but it's because this fight has been confirmed, this Joshua Fury fight, now it's a letdown. Do you know what I mean? Now it's like,
Yeah.
Joshua's fighting
People want it to be
Usyk.
over. People want it. They just want to forget
That's
that.
what I mean. Whereas if this hadn't been the case, everyone's like, "Phew, tough fight that." Joshua's fighting Usyk, be a good fight that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with like Wilder Fury.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like anyone wants to. Definitely nobody wants to see that now. They
Yeah.
never wanted to see it before that, but now everyone's like, "No,
Yeah.
we didn't want to see that fight."
And it's not that it won't sell. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it's just not the fight to make. That's all. Because when it comes to it, everyone's still like a lot of like it's still a huge fight.
If Fury wins that fight, everyone goes, "Thank God!" Like that's done. Do you know what I mean? Like that's literally going to be the reaction. It's not going to be like the second fight where Fury, won the first one pretty much, got the draw, going into the second one, absolutely smashed him.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Yes, come on!" Like he's actually done it. Do you know what I mean? Now it's going to be like, he's only got one punch, Wilder. And the more times you fight him, the more chance he's got of landing that punch.
Yeah.
But that's his only get out of jail card. He's not going to outbox him. He's not going to. So if he doesn't land that punch, he's knackered.
Yeah.
And if you fight the man 10 times, Fury's going to lose interest. He's not going to be up for it as much as he was the last time. He might not be as switched on. Do you know what I mean? That stuff like that plays into the fact that, especially with people like Fury, who you know stuff like that, if he's not up for a fight or something, that massively affects him. He loves being the underdog. And with his mental health history, that's a big part of it as well. So if he is losing interest and he's not in the right frame of mind for that fight, mistakes can be made.
Yep.
And he might not get up if he gets knocked down that time.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And that's a risk you run, I guess, in boxing.
That's one of the things that we've talked about in the past. Why a big part, like why MMA is so good.
Yeah.
Because there's the best just fight the best, and how you can wait 5 years for a big clash in boxing. Like look at the Mayweather.
It's like politics in it. It's like trying to arrange the Queen to go into another country.
Like how potentially you could be waiting another, you just don't know how long before you see this.
Like I say, I don't watch a lot of MMA myself, but I've watched a lot of the big fights.
Yeah.
And they happen far too often. Do you know what I mean? It's like, McGregor's fighting Khabib, then next week such and such is fighting, and then you've got that Usman against. Do you know what I mean? And it's just and you're just like,
you can see
every weekend
you can see why fighting fans in general, but loads of boxing fans go to that.
It's like a substitute.
They've got a card on every weekend, and 1 out of them 4 weekends is going to be a huge name. Do you know what I mean?
But the way that MMA works as well, the fact that it's devastating. Let's be honest,
it's
right?
brutal.
It doesn't matter who's in that ring.
Yeah.
There's generally excitement.
Yeah.
There's going to be something. It's leg breaks, blood everywhere.
Yeah.
There are going to be one punch knockouts for 13-second fights,
Yeah.
5-round brawls, people against the cage. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you put a boxing show on, there's one headline act, and then the rest of the fighters are just amateurs. Not amateurs, they're pros, but they're early in their careers. They're learning. They're not devastating knockouts. Do you know what I mean? And it's most boxing matches, fight cards. It's been rare up until recently. The Chisora Porter, was it the Chisora Porter card with Katie Taylor on and stuff? That was it was a very good, solid card where every fighter was interesting and good to watch. And I think it's been a long time since I remember saying to you, this has been the best card this year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't get them every week. You get them once or twice a year with a good card.
Mm.
But like you say, it's more political boxing, isn't it? And us as fans, it's infuriating at times, isn't it? And I mean, some of the stuff that people come out with on these, interviews and on the news and social media and stuff, I just get a laugh out of scrolling through comments and that on Twitter, mate. It's
they're funny.
The whole the Wilder fan base must be as delusional as him sometimes. Do you know what I mean? because like he has them convinced that he is the best boxer to ever grace the planet. Do you know what I mean? He's got a good right hand.
Yeah.
Boxer?
Nope.
No.
No.
Knockout artist? Aye, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's I just think like, you know, how people are so quick to judge in boxing. One minute you love, the next minute you hate it. Yeah. And that's the way it's always going to be, isn't it?
That's
what brings the excitement, I
guess.
guess, in it, yeah, and the money to it.
But I think, and one thing as well, I think Fury, if it was up to Fury, I think he'd fight Wilder and then Joshua the next weekend.
Fight him the next day. I think if he could, I think he's that confident he'd beat Wilder.
But it's all, again, when you're thinking if they're going to fight in whenever it is, June, July, whatever, then you need time for another fight camp. You need time for proper promotion, because if it's huge, it's going to be the biggest fight in decades.
You need a tour.
Yeah, you need
America.
You need months and months of promotion.
That's right. You need
then time for rest.
Legally, you have to have time off.
For rest, and then they need to start another fight camp. Like you'd probably, and like if I was to guess, I mean there was talks in November and December, but I think you're probably talking early next year if like they both fight once this year without fighting each other. You're probably looking at next year, in my opinion. The likelihood is...
I hope you're so wrong. I really do hope you're so wrong. But
I hope I'm wrong.
I hope Eddie Hearn gets his finger out and his wallet and pays bloody Wilder, because we didn't want to be seeing Wilder versus Fury, man. There's like, don't even know what to say about that fight anymore, to be honest. Do you want to see it?
I'd like to see it. I would like to see it.
Wilder Fury again?
I'd like to see it.
You're going to watch it?
I'd like to
I mean, I'm going to watch it. I didn't want to watch it, but I'm going to watch it.
I'd much rather see Fury thingy, because at the end of the day, I want to see the best people in the world fight all the time, really. So it's not that I don't want to see it, because I think Wilder's exciting, even though the likelihood is the same thing's going to happen again, because Fury's a 10 times better boxer. But I'd like to see how it turns out. He's got a point to prove. Like, it's interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's still points.
There's still point. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, if you beat him again, then I would never want to. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's how he's just beat him 3 times in a row now, and he's knocked him out twice. Like, if he goes and knocks him out twice, like, which I think he'll want to do again, because the likelihood is it's going to be in America. So we'll see what happened the first time. So, you know what I mean? Like, the judges in America, we'll know what judges are like in the likes of Vegas for the American fighter. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I would like to see it, yes, but I'd like to see them all fight each other. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I want to see. I want to see Joshua v Fury like everybody else.
Well, I think now's the time to sort it out, and like I said, with the legal thing and that, I kind of believe that nobody's questioned the whole scenario. Who is this judge? Where's he from? Apparently he's retired. A retired judge.
Right.
Who's looking over the case. Get him on your next interview, IFL TV or somebody. Ask him some questions about how he came to this decision. Why he came to this decision. I've always thought, right, as well, this is just about boxing in general. I'll mention this now, right? This is completely, like, not off topic, but different. People should be held accountable for their choices, especially in the likes of boxing and stuff like that, right? Because it happens too often where because we know that there's corruption in the sport, right? Even the boxers like Del Boy and everyone will tell you, you know, sometimes you haven't got a chance, even though you're made out you've got a chance, you haven't got a chance. Mm-hmm. And you see it too often where scorecards are too wide, the people get dodgy decisions. Fights get made ahead of other fighters because of certain reasons. And I've always thought, like, say for instance this decision, how the Wilder's, you know, the judges ruled that it's in Wilder's favour. He should have to be sat down in front of somebody on the camera and explain himself. Yeah. How he's come to that decision. Hold him accountable. Do you know what I mean? This is how you get rid of corruption in the sport, right? When a judge has a scorecard so wide, sit him down. Mm. How did you get to that decision? Yeah. Just let me know what you saw.
They should be obliged to interviews like the fight.
Yeah, there should be, exactly, after. Because then the corruption, they'll put it on you straight away. You'll have all the press on you, you'll have all the public on you. Do you know what I mean? Then people will start thinking, I have to make the right choice here. Do you know what I mean? I have to be fair. I can't just make it up as I'm going along.
Yeah.
In favour of the other boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Especially when it's like you see in America, on the other guys, if Fury goes to America, it's not his home. The judges are probably going to be from that area somewhere. It seems like it's all stacking against you. Do you know what I mean? So if someone, like the draw decision he got the first fight, that one judge, even though he's from the UK, I think, right, he should have to be sat down and say, just explain to me how you got your scorecard to that. And if you can justify it, fair enough.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
I think with like your point you just made, like in boxing, there's so many examples, and it's the more money, it's the biggest fights in the world, the badder it gets. Like,
I know.
Like look at Canelo. Remember the Golovkin fight? The judge had him like
too many Canelo fights.
10 rounds to 2 or something.
Too many Canelo fights.
It's impossible. Look at the Billy Joe fight in Canelo. It was very close in my eyes. I actually had Billy Joe up at that round.
Joe. There's so many people have said they had Billy Joe up.
Billy Joe, and
the judges
had it like Canelo 4 round. Billy Joe only run like 1 round on one of them or something like that, and it's like total. And the other 2 had Canelo like 4
as if
rounds.
Canelo
up.
was absolutely battering him. Do you know what I mean? And you think when you look at scorecards like that, especially like for instance that recent Billy Joe fight, you look at that and you think he never had a chance. He never had a chance of winning on points. No matter how well he boxed, he was not winning that fight. There was no way they were going to let Canelo be beat on points.
He could have won.
He could have won every round knocked him out, and he'd have gotten disqualified.
Well, that's the thing. He could have won every round. And he would have lost on the scorecards by a round or so, or whatever. Split decision, whatever it is. They would have made a Canelo win. So turns out,
it would have been a draw.
And every time though you go into them huge fights, let's think it's Joshua and Canelo are probably the 2 biggest draws in boxing.
Yeah.
Fury's probably close behind.
Yeah.
What you got to do to beat, you've got to not in every big fight. You sort of think. You go in with a mindset they'll be given a fair shout, or they can win on points. They can't win. Billy Joe could not win against Canelo.
He could not win on points.
Well, it turns out
he can win on points. No,
he can, but in terms of the actual
end
decision,
result will not go his way. I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's just literally impossible. It's do you know what I mean? It's not.
Well, it's like the Fury Wilder second fight. You got the draw the first time. Now that was. I'm going to say unlucky. It wasn't unlucky because the guy made a very bad mistake or a good mistake, whatever way you want to look at it, that judge, right? Second time, Fury, he knew himself. This is the build-up to that fight, right? Because I had money on Fury to win by knockout, right?
Yeah.
And he said, all along, I'm going to knock Wilder out in that second fight, right? And you know what solidified it for me? Was when they announced, days before the fight, they had a press conference, the final press conference, and they announced that all the judges were American or something, right? And he went, yeah, that's great, that's fine, no worries about that, I'm sure they'll do their job the right they could.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is a man he's not going to win on points. He knows that he's not, zero chance of winning on points.
Yeah.
Changing the trainer to Sugar Hill, just all the little things that just all made sense then for me, and I thought he's going to knock him out. He has to. There's no way he's going to win on points.
It does. It's crazy. It's just the one time I can think where it actually went the way it should was Fury v Klitschko. That's probably the only big fight.
But you know what, right? That fight, you couldn't give it to Klitschko. No matter how much you wanted to, you just couldn't give it to him. Do you know what I mean? And if you're going to box that way and try and outbox the other guy on their territory with their judges in their ring with their fans, you have to do it like he did on that night and look invincible, so that there's no question that you won that fight. Because for me, I've watched that fight so many times. Klitschko didn't even throw a punch. He just was shook. Do you know what I mean? And that is the only way to win if you're going to win on points. Do you know what I mean? Because the odds were, everything was against Fury then, but he was that convincing. They must have been sitting crying, the judges or whoever it was, the promoters, because if them judges come out and give it a Klitschko or a draw, everyone's thinking, hang on a second. Do you know what I mean? We know there's corruption in the sport, but that would just, that's like a bit obvious. It's a bit too much. But you're right, that is the only one I can actually think of where it's went the right way. And that was the reason, because it was so solid that he won, majority rounds. Wasn't even close. You could not give it to Klitschko. There wasn't an argument. Whereas the Wilder one, he got the knockdowns. Do you know what I mean?
He got the knockdowns, and a few of the early rounds were close-ish. Do you know what I mean? Because he landed a few jabs
a couple
each
of
and
punches.
Stuff,
Do you know what I mean? And then the knockdowns, you could. There's an argument there.
Yeah.
Whereas the Fury one was literally he just jabbed his head off for 12 rounds straight. Klitschko really didn't do anything. You can't argue with that.
Yeah. Blooming boxing, man.
It gets me riled up, just sitting here. Not riled up, but you just think...
It's just wrong. Just wrongly, it's just wrong.
It's not only messing with the people that are watching it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of feel like you're getting manipulated a bit, right? And like we said the other day, didn't we? When we talked about the Billy Joe Canelo thing, vaguely. You might as well watch the fight. You said this to me, didn't you? I might as well watch the fight, and then before they give any decisions at the end, just turn it off. Just turn it off and be like, that's who won. I don't need to know who won. I don't want them to tell us. I'm going to make the decision that that's who won the fight for me. Because the chances are, whatever you think, the judges are going to give it the other way. Say, for instance, Billy Joe went on to box as well as he had been and won the fight on rounds, and we thought 3 rounds up, and then Canelo's won. You're like, where, man? Do you know what I mean? The wrong person's won the fight. Whereas if you just turn it off before you see the results, we didn't need to know Billy Joe won the fight or Canelo won the fight or whatever.
It turns out Canelo won the fight because he had a huge fight, so it's sort of like, but then when it just makes you think, what's the point of looking at the judges' score? Like, what is the point? What's the point?
Like, if that fight went to the scorecards...
They all had him winning hugely, it just wasn't that fight. Even if I can understand, because when you look at the stats and stuff, and Canelo was landing the power shots, and you have to recognise that as well, but... Like, I can understand people had Canelo even 2 rounds up, I don't agree with it, but I had, Billy Joe 1 or 2 rounds up going into that round.
Yeah, I did,
But I understand it, but these judges had it like a landslide, it's just like... And it was only going to get bigger. Do you know what I mean? The more fight goes on, they're just so you would have ended up about Billy Joe would have won 3 rounds to 9. It's like,
when in reality he probably had at least half.
If he was going
to keep it going. That's it. That's the thing. And
it's like, for me, if you look, because Canelo's the cash cow, the Golovkin fights that because I'm a fan of Golovkin, but. To me, you're a fool if you don't think Golovkin won at least one. I think he won both of them, and that's without being. I actually think it was clear he won both of them.
I think one of them. Was it the
first one? The first one, I had to win 8 rounds. Yeah, and I think that Teddy Atlas did, and people were like, there's no. And one the judge has it 118 to 112 in Canelo's favour.
That's what I mean.
But the thing is, it's just that's ruining. Golovkin should be going down as one of the greatest ever. He's ruined his 35 years, whatever he was, of hard work.
It's ruining the fans' perspective of the fight. It's ruining the man's career, his legacy. It's ruining not ruining it because he's making a load of money, but it's ruining his stuff for his family. He might be getting an extra bonus.
He's fighting for his legacy there, though, isn't he? Because he's making loads of money, getting them fights.
That's what he's fighting for.
Especially with Golovkin, he's
But we're talking about this at the biggest level. You gotta remember, this happens at lower level as well. Someone's coming through. Nah, we don't think they're going to be. Don't think they're going to be we're not going to manage them as well. We're going to afford. We'll put him in against this guy because he's good. But with this guy's work cash cow, and this will make this guy look a lot better. Do you know what I mean?
Following on social media.
But this is a good fight because if he beats him, it bumps him up. Do you know what I mean? And that. It's horrible that the industry works like that.
But the thing is, though, it's accepted.
It is, but that's what I'm saying.
Once a week goes by and people are done with it, it's just all right, and then it happens again.
Now it happens. That's why people need to be held responsible for their decisions in the sport.
It needs to be like a government body.
I'm just a fan. You're just a fan.
Yeah.
We can see this happening.
Yeah.
We know money talks, and that's what everything revolves around. We know that.
Especially in this
business,
not sport,
exactly.
business.
But there's got to be a time where there's got to be something where you have to justify decisions that are being made and results and things like that. You have to be able to justify them, not with, because it's a good business decision. It has to be because it's fair or it's the right thing to do. Do you know what I mean? There should be, the judges should have to be boxers. There should have to be ex-boxers. Do you know what I mean?
It's a good thing to say. It's a good thing to...
Something like this has to happen where, in football you're getting VAR, stuff like that. Something like, obviously you couldn't have VAR in a boxing match. Hang on lads, just stop there. Stop. We're just going to check to see, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, have ex-professionals who have boxed, have them judging it. Some of these bloody TV commentators have better scorecards than the judges. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just fans in general.
Yeah.
So put something in place where you've got ex-pros in there making decisions. So at least one of the decisions is going to be solid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have two non-professionals and then have someone who's been in the boxing ring. Do you know what I mean? Who's got loads of money, who doesn't need to pay a backhander, who can't be manipulated. Somebody who is representing the public. Do you know what I mean? The fans, the sport. I'm not going to name anybody, but you've got people like David Hay, Froch. Do you know what I mean? Even so George Groves. All these people who have been in big fights. You know what I mean? They've had anybody like ex-pros, Roy Jones Jr. Anybody like that who's been in them. Give them a role. Make some sort of, I don't know, a club where it's like that. This is we're going to be the adjudicators and we're going to make something happen.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I made this idea. So anyone, when this happens, no, I didn't really. I've seen this on an interview in the telly. I'm sure one of the ex-pros said this is what should happen. Do you know what I mean? But I agree. This is something like that has to come into place with boxing, especially boxing, because there's too much is unexplained. And nobody is held accountable for it. And then, like you say, it's
move on. It's just forgotten about, and move on.
And it's no good. It's no good for the sport. And it affects everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's like the odds when you looked at. Did you look at the odds for the Billy Joe Saunders fight and the Canelo fight?
I did. Just remind us what they were.
So the round betting for Billy Joe to knock Canelo out was 100-1 for every round.
Yeah.
It's good odds. Mm-hmm. He's not really going to knock Canelo out.
You don't think so?
But the odds for Canelo to win, obviously, were he's a massive favourite. But it was as if even the bookies and everybody were just like, nah, there's no way that Billy Joe's winning this. Do you know what I mean? Everything's against him. It was almost guaranteed on the bookies front that Canelo was going to win. Do you know what I mean?
So high, yeah.
That's what I mean. So, because of everything we've just discussed, even it's affecting betting, gambling, it's affecting everybody, people outside of just your viewers, people who are betting on the fight. Do you know what I mean? It's just affecting so much outside that because people know that the chances are he's not going to win that fight. Not because of his boxing ability, not because he can't knock him out, but because it's in America, because it's Canelo, because he's the cash cow, because the three judges are probably against him, the promoters are against him, all the fans are against him,
everybody is
against him, and he's got no chance in that matter, then has he? He could box the best boxing thing of his life, and guess what? It's still going to be 100-1 because he's probably still not going to win.
Exactly. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's right.
So, but yeah, rant over.
Yep, but hopefully we'll see Joshua Fury soon.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, mate. And I think we should do some sort of reaction video or something like that, innit? Because it's the biggest British boxing fight, if it happens for Undisputed, that there's ever going to be in our lifetime.
Likelihood is, yeah.
And the fact it's in bloody Saudi Arabia is just unlucky, and it's just unfortunate that they're the rich
Yep, that's where
countries
the
at the
money
minute.
is.
You know, because if it was at Wembley or something like that, like
Which is where I thought it was certain to be.
I thought it would have to be.
Had to be at Wembley.
We would be there, wouldn't we?
It just should be.
It's history.
Really. Do you know what I mean? It should be.
It should
you
be.
can't have
Two British
the one time
fighters.
in the full history of boxing, two British heavyweights are going for the heavy, and then we go,
where shall
we're not holding it in Wimbledon.
Where shall we have this? Where shall we have this? Saudi Arabia. Everyone thinks Saudi Arabia.
Other side of the world.
Aye, yep, Saudi it is. Yep, get them on the phone.
Yep. It's just like
great idea.
Great idea. Like it's just
no, we didn't want it at Wembley. No, that's not a good idea. That no, I don't think it wouldn't go down well.
It only holds 100,000 people in.
100,000, aye, yeah. It wouldn't go down well, I didn't think, with the British fans. Ring Saudi.
Yeah, it's just
credit to them though. You know, they've got to do what they've got to do, and if they've got the fight. If they've got the fight, they've got the fight.
Yeah. See, watch it'll be Usyk v Wilder for the belts next year, and Fury Joshua will be on the undercard
in bloody Iceland or something like that.
Fury v Joshua will be on the undercard.
Oh,
two bums.
Don't say that, man. Don't say a thing. Be in Greenland or something like that, fucking Alaska on a mountain somewhere. Bloody wolves fending off wolves and that and all. Whilst they're fighting, make it interesting. You gotta laugh about it, otherwise you cry.